You had just mentioned the women's movement. In your book, you wrote, "We don't have a functional women's movement today." Can you explain what you mean by that, and two follow-up questions? And what would a functional women's movement look like? And you also said that we need a new Rosie the Riveter. So
okay.
I'm going to sort of
they're
put
all related,
together.
so I can put that all together. So
thank you.
If anybody remembers the Rosie the Riveter advertising campaign, it was a campaign during World War II. There's a picture with a woman in a bandana with her sleeves rolled up. The slogan was, "We can do it." And it really resonated because the slogans did two things. It said, number one, you can do it. You can do these jobs, these war industry jobs that are desperately needed to be filled. And number two, that you actually can make the difference, that you are able and you will make the difference. And women bought it. 6 million women entered the workforce by the end of World War II. 6 million women, because they knew they were needed. My grandmother was one of them. My great aunt was one of them. My great grandmother was one of them. They all worked at the Waterville Elite Arsenal. And they believed that they could make a difference. I think we need a Rosie the Riveter moment for this generation, telling women my generation and younger, we can do it, that actually our voices do need to be heard. Most women, and the reason why I feel like the women's movement is dead is my mother and my grandmother's generation fought very hard for every right we have today, for every single right. And our ability to get an education, our ability to play sports, our ability to get any job, our ability to succeed. All of those rights were won by my mother and grandmother's generation. But my generation, I think, was the first generation that was told there's nothing you can't do. Nothing you can't do. You can be anything you want to be. And we've achieved educational parity in this country. More than half of the college degrees and advanced degrees are now earned by women. More than half. Right. So a typical woman in a university, she's not going to experience gender bias probably at all, because it really doesn't start to happen until you're well into your career, particularly when you start getting into childbearing years. That's when you begin to see a lot of men making partner and women not making partners. Some women ramping off because they want to have more flexibility and they want to provide for their children. Some women having no support when they do have family issues. And you begin to see the biases grow and you begin to see the separation. And it's a real issue. And so my generation is just now recognizing, and you ask any woman who's had a challenge in the workplace, she will tell you, and if you are a low-wage worker, you have it even worse. If you are a low-wage worker, you have no protection. You don't have sick days, you don't have vacation days. If your child is sick, then you will miss work. If you miss work, you will either be fired or certainly never promoted. And so we call it the sticky floor, this constant momentum where women are pulled down to lower-wage jobs. Even if you're in a professional career and you've achieved a certain level of success, let's say you ramp off, I've had 2 kids now, I really need a lot more flexibility, I can't work 15 hours a day, I've got to work less, I've got to be home to make dinner, and I need flexibility, so I'm going to work less. When she ramps off her career, it is unlikely, and the statistics are so small, that she will ever ramp back on where she left with the same level of pay and the same level of responsibility. It will be lower on both ends. And if you have a family emergency, I met a mom whose daughter was hit by a car, and she had to be in a wheelchair for 5 months. Well, the Family Medical Leave Act doesn't protect you for more than 3 months. So she lost her job. She had a professional degree. She was never hired in her industry again and never earned the salary she left because she had to be out for 5 months to care for her daughter. We are the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have paid family medical leave. Afghanistan and Pakistan have more paid leave than we do. And that is a fundamental bias against women in the workforce. And back to my earlier statistics, if 8 out of 10 of moms are working, we should be building workplace rules that reflect the face of the workforce.
Right.
So I don't mean to criticize, when I say the women's movement is dead, I just mean of all the vibrancy that my mother and grandmother, all the things they achieved, we're still fighting those things. We had a Congress, again, debating access to contraception. That was decided by the Supreme Court decades ago, and we're still fighting about it? It's absurd. The fact that under a Democratic president with a Democratic speaker, female of the House, we had the Stupak Amendment, which was to basically say, if we do health care reform, women are not eligible to buy health care with their own money if they need abortion services. Not even eligible to buy it with their own money. It would have been outlawed. And that amendment passed in the House of Representatives. That means the women's movement is going backwards. And when people voted for that amendment, what happened? Nothing. Maybe an email, maybe another, a letter to the editor, but nothing happened. There was no movement. There was no booms that came down. There was no punishment. There was no retribution. There wasn't millions of dollars run against those candidates. It just didn't happen because we have no real infrastructure. We have amazing choice groups like NARAL and Emily's List and Planned Parenthood, which do incredible work. But who's fighting for raising the minimum wage or equal pay or, advocacy groups here and there? There's not some large collaborative effort that we're all together saying we are going to make sure women have parity, that women have true equality. Equal pay for equal work is still a pipe dream. There's no accountability in a red state. A Republican member of Congress can vote any way he wants on issues of equal pay. And there's no consequence. So my goal for a women's movement is a Rosie the Riveter moment, where we have 6 million more women voting and 6 million more women holding these elected leaders accountable and 6 million more women being heard on the issues they care about.